These are the most remote and difficult places to reach in the world. Starting off with North Sentinel Island in the Bay of Bengal, it's actually not that far away from civilization. As you can see here, South Andaman Island is only about 50 kilometers away, and then a little bit further south you have South Sentinel Island. But North Sentinel Island is special because it may not be one of the most difficult places to reach on the list, but it sure is the most dangerous one. Because if you somehow end up on this island, the odds of you being littered with arrows is extremely high. As for those of you who haven't been on my channel and haven't seen before, the local North Sentinelese tribe have been on the island for the past couple of thousand years at bare minimum, and they understand that bringing outsiders onto the island where they haven't had any exposure to those diseases could completely jeopardize the entire tribe. And so far on the entire island, this is the most interesting clearing that I've ever come across, as it clearly looks like they've taken this down on purpose, and they'll probably use the fallen trees as resources, like making canoes. And it's believed that North Sentinel Island was supposedly connected to a larger land bridge, something similar to the Bering Strait, because if you could imagine a line, essentially all of this would be a land bridge that would connect all of it, and that would include North Sentinel Island. And that's why they believe that they've been there for the past 2,000 years at minimum, because all of this was connected at one point. The central interior is a dense tropical rainforest, but the coastline reveals a turquoise lagoon that's prime for fishing, and for reefs that have actually beached more than 3 ships that we know of. The ships would be the Nineveh, the MV Primrose, and the MV Russley. And as you can see here, there's actually the remnants still available from the MV Primrose. I've covered this area of the map a lot in other videos, so if you're interested, make sure to check out the channel for other videos. So if you're unlucky enough to be beached on this island, you better hope that you find a way off the island as quick as possible. Number 2 is Easter Island, and most of you know what Easter Island is, but have you ever realized just how truly remote it is? Easter Island's nearest city or settlement is actually Adamstown in the Pitcairn Islands. When I started researching Easter Island, I didn't actually realize just how far away it is from everything. And for how small the island is, it surprisingly has around 8,000 residents on the island, with the majority of them being right here. And it looks like a pretty decent city. I mean, it has an airport over here, it has a large hospital, and they even have an entire museum that's dedicated to the Easter Island statues that are actually on the other end of the island. Over here are the most iconic Moai heads, as they're all lined up in one sequence, and they're actually facing the ocean. I forgot exactly why they do that, but all of them are facing towards the island. I believe it's for protection of some sort. So unfortunately with Google Earth, we can't see anything with the big 3D view. Like, I wish they would actually pop up so we could look at them from up here. But the good thing is that this is obviously Google Earth, and we have Street View because it's a popular tourist destination. So let's head down here. And that is absolutely insane. I believe most of these were around 40 feet tall, and if it wasn't all of them, then I assume the tallest ones would be. So I did some research and I found that when they wear these hats, they're actually signified as being much more important than the other statues. And if we back up just a little bit and head off to the main road, I think you actually get an even better view of the entire landscape, because you still get an idea of just how large these are in the background. You have a beautiful view of the beach over here, and then over here when it starts to rise up with the hills, and as you turn around, you get this awesome little cliff side over here as well. And once you bounce out over to this part of the island, you're actually able to see even more of the stone heads that are just kind of laying around, but all the way from Google Earth satellite view. So this just gives you an idea of just how many of them they made. And then of course, with just like we did with the other one, let's go to the street view so we can get the first person perspective. And this is absolutely amazing. I always think about just how lucky we are to get to have a service like Google Earth, especially given that it's free and that it's theoretically available to anybody in the entire world. Because this is just awesome, and we pretty much get to experience what it's like to go here without actually having to pay for the airfare and the hotels to go here and see this in person. And you can see now that we're down here, there's just so many of them that are either lying face down on the ground or that are actually still standing upright, but there are so many of them. Right in this area, there's at least 20 or 30 of them. And they were all formed right beside this volcanic crater called Rano Raraku. And this is a pretty substantial crater because when you want to measure it, crater to crater, it's about half a kilometer. But Easter Island is a really cool place, and honestly, I would love to visit one day. The good thing about Google Earth is that it basically gives us a sample size of if we'd want to go to these places, and at this point, yeah, I'd go. Tristan da Cunha is another extremely remote island in the South Atlantic, and it's home to only 205 people that are currently living on the island. And we have complete proof of this, considering they docked their entire population. And if you head to the website, you're able to see exactly how many residents they have there, and whether they're overseas or currently on the island, with the last names listed and everything. So in total, they have 232 residents, as some residents like to leave and return to the island regularly. But in total, they have 205 people, and it's just hilarious to me that they have it all listed out and aired out their dirty laundry online. And it's a beautiful place because when you back up, you can see this massive cliff and absolutely huge volcano up here. At the height of Queen Mary's Peak, it's an astounding 2,000 meters above sea level. And there's no Google Street View available, but if there was, you'd be able to see an absolutely beautiful view. But let's say you somehow hiked up here and you already are tired, but you want to take a little dip, you can actually find Queen Mary's Lake. And then as you back up a little bit, go down, you can find a couple more little ponds here, and it's actually called the Ponds. This is just a ridiculously beautiful island. I would love to visit here one day. I'm sure the airfare is absolutely insane considering it's straight up in the literal middle of nowhere. So I'm pretty happy for these 205 people that live on the island because it's absolutely beautiful, and I can't imagine 205 people would be able to destroy the land too much. But you can see that the island did it themselves because back in 1961, it actually erupted and it would cause lava field to form. So again, it's a beautiful island, and honestly, the more that I'm talking about it, the more I want to visit it. And then we make it our way over to the Pitcairn Islands, which include Adamstown as well, which is the only inhabited place within this region. But there's not much here once you start to take a look at it. Similar to South Sentinel Island, it's a pretty beautiful island, but there's just not much here. And if we grab our ruler and move it over to French Polynesia, we can see that we're roughly 2,300 kilometers away from one of the nearest cities. But then if you back up and go into Adamstown, you're going to see that this place is actually a little bit more interesting. For one, it's a lot more beautiful with plenty of rolling hills in it. It is quite a mountainous terrain, and these people have clearly built their homes into it. It looks like down here they have a school, and they even have their own museum. As it says, the museum's collection includes archaeological materials from the earliest settlers, as well as artifacts from HMS Bounty, whatever that is. Here in Adamstown, it was inhabited before European contact, although there have been plenty of Polynesian archaeological remains that show an earlier settlement. And over time, the island became known for its isolation and the unique blend of Polynesian and European heritage. Supply ships arrive only a few times a year from New Zealand, and life is largely self-sufficient on the island. And then once you back up out of Adamstown, you get over to Aeno Island, and it's uninhabited, but it sure is a beautiful island. And the way most of these people are actually getting to these islands are from this one over here called Gambier. As you can see, there's plenty more civilization that has come up, and then as we go over to this part of the island, you can actually see that they have an airport. This is a pretty wild airport. Look how close it is to the water over here. The margin for error is 0. You cannot mess up this landing. But I believe people fly in here and then they just take yachts or boats over to the other islands to explore them. And honestly, this is a really nice island, and you might just want to stay here because plenty of places to hike. You have plenty of water access. And then you also have some civilization here. So if anything goes wrong, you have a medical center. If you want to stay, you have a middle school. And overall, you just have some civilization built up, so you're not completely alone. Next, we're heading over to Bouvet or Bouvet Island, and this one is completely different than the other ones that I've shown you guys so far, because this one is really in the middle of nowhere. It's closer towards the South Pole than anything else, and the closest place or the closest city to it should be Cape Town, South Africa. So if we use our ruler and actually rule it out, let's just see Cape Town. So we're at about 2,600, 2,500 kilometers away. But then you do Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, and you're at about 2,300 kilometers. So this is actually the closest civilization. So Bouvet Island is actually a volcanic island in the South Atlantic, and it's crowned by a glacier that covers over 90% of its surface. That's what makes it completely different than everything else I've shown you so far. It's the fact that it's covered in a complete blanket of ice. So I did some digging, and apparently there's a research center somewhere on the island, but I can't actually find it. I believe the only part of the island they could do a research center is over on this part, considering it looks like the only small amount of somewhat even ground. But when you look around, pretty much everywhere on the island is posing a massive risk of some sort of avalanche or massive falling here, because you can even see the streaks suggesting that stuff has already fallen down. So it seems like regardless if anything's here right now, it's just extremely dangerous to be here in the first place. So let me know what you guys thought of the video, and if you'd like to see anything else like this. If you do like these kind of videos, just let me know what other islands you'd like to see, leave them in the comments, and I'll be sure to cover them next time.